Alright, welcome to today's lesson on methods, part 1, commands. We're going to be talking about how to create Java programs that use commands that we have made ourselves. So far in this course, the programs we've made have been very simplistic. And you may disagree with me on that, but in the grand scheme of things, we can create much more complex programs. And when we do so, it's very beneficial and sometimes absolutely essential to organize our code into sections that can be reused. In Java, these sections that are reusable are called methods or subroutines. Methods are basically a mini program that runs independently of the other code in your program. So we've seen examples of this so far in the codes we've created. Whenever we did a draw line, or length, or set char, any of those things that we've used that had brackets at the end of the line of code, these were all examples of methods. Now there's two types of methods. The first is called a command. And a command is basically anything that performs a function without returning any values back to the program itself. Examples of this would be something like printline. It prints something to the screen but doesn't actually give us any information back again. All of the string buffer methods like append, those were all examples of commands because they did something to the string buffer but didn't return any information back. We also have queries, which we'll be talking about in our next lesson, and these basically return the same thing as a command, but they return a value to the program. So char at will return a character at a specific location to the program so it could be used later. So why would we want to bother using methods? Well, first of all, methods can be reused unlimited times, so we could run them over and over and over inside our program without having to write all that code over and over and over again. Secondly, methods allow multiple programmers to work on different sections of program at the same time. So if you're working with a partner, one of them could work on one set of methods while you work on another set of methods independent of each other. Methods also can be called from anywhere in your program. So again, once you've written it, you could use it at any point you want instead of having to write the code at a specific location. Methods make it easier to debug your program by breaking it up into smaller chunks. So if something doesn't work, you can find the specific method and just work on that method on its own, which would not impact anything else in your program. And finally, if you want to use them, it's very easy. All you need to know is the signature, the name, and the parameters that are required in order to use it. You don't really need to know anything at all about how it's coded on the inside. So how do we use a command in our program? Well, basically you have to know two things. The name of the method, which we use to call it, and any parameters that are going to be required in order for that method to run. So examples of commands we've used so far: print, so the name of the method is print, and then in the brackets we provide the parameters of what to print. Similarly, with our string buffers, we can give the command append and provide it some sort of string to append to the original string buffer. Whenever we use a command, it's preceded by a dot and the object or variable that it is going to be affecting. So in this case, I'm going to append this particular string buffer. I'm going to print to this particular console. So how do we create our own methods? Well, to do that, we do what's called defining a method. It's the same idea as defining a variable. We're going to make a new method that we can define at any program at any point. In order to do so, it must be inside a class but outside of the main method. And I'll show you an example in the next video of a program that has a method that I've created in it. New methods also require a method signature and any code needed to function. We call this the body. So how do you deal with the method signature? Method signature has 5 parts. The scope, which outlines who can use it. A keyword static, which I'll explain in a minute. The information of what the method is going to return, and in this case we're talking about commands, so we're going to return nothing or void. The method name that we're going to use to call the method and be reused later, and just like any other method or variable, it needs to be unique within the program. And then finally, any parameters that are required for this particular method to be run. So the scope. The scope determines who can use this method. You can make it either public or private. If you make it public, it means that anyone, anywhere can use this particular method, even outside of your program. If you make it private, it means that only this program and methods within this program can use it. Basically, for our purpose in this course, everything we create is going to be made public. The static keyword has to do with how the method is accessed. It's a little bit complex as to how it actually works and beyond the scope of this course. So for our purposes, all you need to really know is that every method you create must have the static keyword in its signature. Information. This tells the program what type of information is going to be returned. So I could say it's going to return an integer, a string, a double, or whatever type of information it's going to return. But again, because we are currently going to just use commands, we're going to use the keyword void, saying that we're not returning any information. The name of the method, and again, should always start with a lowercase letter, just like all of our variables names do, and it needs to be unique within the program itself. And finally, the parameters. Any information needed to run the method is passed as a parameter. They appear inside the smooth brackets after the method's name, and you need to provide both the type and the name of that parameter. If there are no parameters, you just leave the brackets empty. They still have to be there, there's just nothing inside of them. So let's take a look at an example. I'm going to make a command that is going to double a number and output it to the console. So in order to do this, again, we want it to be public so anyone can use this method. It has to be static because all methods we create are static. Void tells me it's a command, I'm not returning any information. Double it is the name of the method, again using the intercap method. And then in this case, I require you to give me an integer which I'm going to call x. Now this isn't a very good variable name, but because it fits better on the screen, I'm going to use it. This whole line here is called the method signature. Then what I do is inside the squiggly brackets, I'm going to place the body of my code, which is going to be whatever this method is going to do. In this case, I'm declaring a variable y, which I'm going to set equal to whatever the value x that they give me is going to be added to itself. So I'm doubling it. Then I'm going to print it to the screen. That's it for today's lesson. If you'd like to see an example program with this code in it, check out the next video. Otherwise, we'll see you in class tomorrow when we'll work on what we've learned.